Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli here just outside of Union City. This is Tuttle Road, and behind me is the worst hit area by that EF3 tornado. 3 people were killed just along this road on Friday afternoon. In fact, I'm going to step out of the way so our photographer Darius can zoom in and show you some things. It's quite astonishing and devastating to watch and look at some of the stuff. In fact, Darius, if we can zoom in a little bit further, you can start to see vehicles that are flipped over. In fact, if we go even further left, towards our left, you'll start to see a fireplace that is off in the distance. You'll start to see homes that are still kind of standing over there, but barely. It is just a horrific scene, and you can really understand how 3 people were killed. All 3 of them were in mobile homes. I also want to show you some video that was taken from our drone 4, and other sources throughout the last couple of days. This area, again, hit by that EF3, 150 mile per hour winds that came in here about 4 o'clock on Friday. Tornado sirens were going off. However, this area is a very, very far northern edge of Branch County, so it's likely you couldn't even hear them out here, although there were a lot of cell phone alerts going off that alerted people. Those warnings and watches actually have become a point of contention for Governor Whitmer. She was touring this area yesterday in the Michigan State Police helicopter, looking at all the damage, and then she also started talking about her frustration with what's going on and the lack of warning. The statement reads, the National Weather Service exists to monitor conditions and inform Americans of severe weather in their communities. The fact that the service did not issue a tornado watch is troubling, especially with the loss of life in Michigan. While tornadoes can be hard to predict, the federal government should investigate whether the failure to issue a watch was related to federal cuts. Now back out here, again, looking at all the damage in front of us, it is just a very difficult thing to see. Talking to a lot of people, especially homeowners. This one right here in front of me, you can barely tell is a home. This is a home that was owned by a family, 2 families in the Ann Arbor area who bought this as a secondary home. I do want to bring in Ron Hilliard, who's back in the studio, to have more of a conversation about the devastation and what happened here. Ron, I'm sure that when you started seeing the photos and images come out of this area on Friday end of the weekend, you probably early on knew that this was a bad tornado, an EF3, 150 mile per hour winds. When you start to see all the damage and all the debris around here, there are a lot of people wondering if it could be even upgraded. I don't think that's the case from the National Weather Service, but what are your thoughts?
You know, it is a high-end EF3 tornado, and what we're seeing is peak winds at its strongest point around 160 miles per hour. You go about 5 miles greater than that with intensity, and that's when you get into that low-end EF rating. Now, what we've been seeing is a lot of devastation in Union City and surrounding communities, and it is something that we have not seen here in Michigan in many years. It's an EF3. The Gaylor tornado, for example, was an EF3, but this one is a high-end EF3 right there at the threshold of an EF4, Nick. So we have seen a lot of devastation, homes flattened, a lot of buildings and structures demolished, and as we know, lives change here in Metro Detroit. So I do want to give you a brief overview on what we're seeing right now with the conditions of weather. It's warm today. We have the spring-like weather. We have the warmth in our forecast on Friday. That helped to fuel some of those thunderstorms that we had. We're going to have temperatures right now here in southeast Michigan around 66 degrees. And I do want to take you back to the warnings that were put into effect over on Friday afternoon. You can see the line of thunderstorms that were rolling through here in southeast Michigan. Those thunderstorms were rolling through in the afternoon hours. A supercell, you see it right there, developing in southwest Michigan. That's the same supercell that prompted multiple warnings, multiple tornadoes. In fact, a total of 4 tornadoes spawned by that single supercell that raced through southwest Michigan. So while we did not have a tornado watch here in southwest Michigan, we did have the tornado warnings that were issued as that supercell raced through. Now, these are the tornadoes that was spawned by that single supercell. We have the EF1 in Edwardsburg, the EF2 in Three Rivers, where we saw a lot of damage as well, winds up to 130 miles per hour. And then in Union City, EF3 right there, 160 miles per hour. And then in Clarendon Township, an EF0 with winds of 85 miles per hour. And when it comes to the watches and warnings, a lot of people are watching and asking the question, why wasn't there a tornado watch? Well, I want to just show you what the difference between a watch and a warning is and the criteria. Typically, a watch is issued several hours ahead of the event, and it's for a larger geographical area, usually multiple counties and a section of the state. Now, that's notice hours ahead of time, and that's issued so that you can be on alert and have a plan of action. Then a warning is issued, usually several minutes, maybe 20 minutes or even more ahead of the event. It's usually covering a county or a couple of counties. It's lasting minutes or a little bit longer. When a warning is issued, that means that conditions are imminent. Take cover right then and there. Now, this is the warning that was issued for the Three Rivers area. You can see it right there, St. Joseph County. This is indicating that we had that tight rotation. We had radar indication and ground visuals. Then farther toward the east, Union City, you see it right there, tight rotation. These are colors right there, the green, air and rain and debris moving toward the radar, the red moving away from the radar, and that's indicating that tight rotation. That warning was in effect for Branch County. So a lot of people are wondering why there wasn't a watch. There was a warning, and there's going to be a lot of debate and questions about whether or not there should have been a watch versus just a warning. But there were alerts and watches, or I should say there were warnings in place, Nick, during the event of those tornadoes that were spawned in southwest Michigan.
You know, Ron, I didn't realize, and maybe it's just my ignorance on the subject, that you could have a warning without a watch. I thought it was a progression that you would have automatically a watch that then moves to a warning, but it seems like there's different criteria, and that maybe the criteria for a watch wasn't met.
You know, Nick, you're right. It's because it's a small geographical area, and we also didn't see the conditions widespread for tornadoes. Normally, a watch covers a large swath, a large area. This was a very isolated event. Now, that does not mean a lot to the people whose lives were changed, and right in your background, I see right there, complete neighborhoods demolished. When you hear that, it doesn't mean a lot. People's lives were changed. For those people, they want as much warning and as much information as possible. But when it comes to watches, it's usually for a much larger geographical area. And a big debate is going to be whether or not enough warning was provided for people. Obviously, people lost their lives. 4 people in total, 3 people in Union City, a dozen people injured in Union City. So there's something that went wrong when it comes to people perishing out of this tornado.
Right, and I'm sure it's going to lend itself more towards that conversation that I've seen pop up around should we do away with tornado sirens and just move to a mobile system. So, Ron, thank you for your insight. I appreciate that. As we mentioned earlier in the show, where we're standing right now, and as Ron just mentioned as well, this is where those 3 people were killed right behind me here. And the home right off to my right shoulder that used to be a home, as I mentioned, was owned by a couple out of the Ann Arbor and Saline area who were just looking for a vacation spot to purchase to go to and enjoy this lake with their family and their grandkids.
When I first walked up to this morning, I just started crying.
Steve and Pam Kohler say it's one thing to see this devastation on the news.
Our garage was right where that pole is,
And we don't know
right
what
there.
The rest of the boat is.
And it's gone.
It's gone.
It's another to see it in person. They, along with Pam's sister-in-law Laura Shively, are all from the Ann Arbor and Saline area. They bought this house 2 decades ago as a family vacation spot. Fortunately, they were not here when Friday's EF3 tornado ripped through, but their neighbors were.
He sat right next to the fireplace, and he was watching the news, keeping updated on the weather situation, and he said the next thing he knew, the whole front of his house blew in on top of him.
And next to him, another neighbor who frantically dug through all of this to get to his wife.
Frank said he was going through the debris
Trying to lift
it because his wife was trapped. But they did rescue her from the debris, and he said she was fine.
And the Branch County Sheriff says stories like that are not uncommon.
A local business owner that was driving by or was here, and he took his suit jacket off and, helped to put pressure on someone's leg. And, our deputies came. Our deputy was the first one on scene. He recovered a lot of people from the rubble. So, yeah, it was, a community like this, people are going to stop and help.
Next, heavy equipment moves in, starting to clear some of this, and the families will be allowed to go through it and find whatever they can.
We found a few things like a quilt my mom made my kids, and that was not even ripped.
How some things are destroyed and some things are perfectly fine. Okay, so again, this area, the hardest hit, where 3 people lost their lives in the area behind me. But there's also damage throughout Union City and, of course, the other areas where other people passed away, including that 12-year-old boy. About a mile in that direction is downtown Union City. And over there are roofs that are ripped off of churches and trees toppled over and smashing cars and through windows. An opportunity on Saturday, just about 12 hours after that tornado came through here, to talk to many other people who were caught in that tornado. And one man, James Taylor, who couldn't make it to his basement, so he grabbed his dogs and just cuddled cornered down in a corner. Where were you when this started happening?
Right here in front of this door. Because my phone went off, got the alert. And I said, well, let me look. Because I wanted to know if it was coming this way, north, south, east, what was happening. And it come right over that way right here. It come this way. That house there, it bounced over that house and tore all this up. And then it went back in the back here. You need to all walk around back and look at what happened back there.
How bad is it back there?
Well, you'll see.
Do you mind if we go back there? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, come on, I'll walk back every way, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, come through here, man, and I mean, it was just ripping and tearing. I thought the house was gonna go.
Do you have a basement you can go in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go in there?
I made it right to that window right there. That's where my basement stairs are. That's how far I made it with the 2 dogs.
Oh, okay.
And when I got there, I was looking out that window, and you seen all the branch, trees, the tin shed, all that just
all flying that way.
Just like a big old fan going through there, man. Debris flying everywhere. But walk around this way with me. And you can see what kind of damage happened down here with all these trees. Yeah, check this. And now it's flooded now, so. But yeah, they took all these trees out here. All that. That big tree there. That big tree there, that's our neighbors. They had 4 of them big sprouts like that.
Yeah.
2 of them got ripped out.
And is this a roof from somewhere?
Yeah, so I don't know whose it is. It ain't ours. It was blowing, there was debris blowing everywhere, man.
And a lawnmower. Is that yours?
Yep, that's my brother's. That's a tin shed. That's a tin shed that blew away.
Okay.
And this one here, they got knocked around pretty good. You can see how it's bowed out, crooked. And I'm surprised it's still here.
Were you inside thinking that the house was going to go?
Yeah, I was right there looking out the window with my 2 dogs. And I was cuddled down. I was cuddled down like this with the dogs. And I said, hang on, girls. Because I didn't know if the house was going to go or what, man, because it was just...
How long did it last?
Nah, maybe 2-3 minutes.
Oh, it was fast.
I'm quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah.
And it was rough, man. It scared me.
I'm glad you're
And
alive,
I'm
man.
63 years old, and it scared me. And this is the second tornado I've been through.
How long from the time you got the warning to the tornado coming?
Oh, I'd say probably 8 minutes, maybe 10.
Okay, so
We had
plenty of warning then.
Yeah, because when I heard it, when my telephone went off, I was looking out the front door.
Okay.
And I said, all right, because I wanted to see if it was coming north, west, east, south.
Yep.
And when I looked out, all them trees over there started blowing. And then it hit a shed behind over there somewhere, and all that debris come up, and I said, here it comes. And when it come right over here, right through here, and I mean just ripping and tearing, dude.
And I will tell you, James talking about that 8 to 10 minute warning, that was pretty much the same story for everyone that I've talked to. Everybody's saying that's about the timeline that they had. I do want to, if we can, Darius, kind of pan the camera real quick and show you that there are more utility crews that are now showing up to work on the trees, the power lines, the rest of the utilities. That's a City of Marshall truck. And I will tell you that there's been a lot of other trucks and other companies coming in just to help as much as they can.